The Silver Swan and the Forgotten Kingdom. Tonight, as the stars twinkle softly above and the night air hums with a quiet lullaby, let your thoughts drift to a land far away, hidden beyond time, nestled in gentle hills and wrapped in a hush of silver mist. Breathe slowly, deeply, let the world fade and step into the stillness of a story waiting to be remembered. There, in a forgotten corner of the world, surrounded by velvet meadows and whispering woods, there lay a lake so still it mirrored the moon. The air smelled of blooming night flowers and cool moss. Fireflies danced like floating stars across the shore, and at the lake's heart, where moonlight lingered longest, a single swan glided in silence, her feathers shimmering like silver stardust. She was no ordinary swan. Some said she was once a princess, others whispered she was a guardian of dreams. But no one truly remembered, for the village nearby had long since emptied. Stone cottages sat quiet beneath ivy and thyme, and the cobbled paths were softened by mossy footprints and petals blown in the breeze. The swan, whose name was Elira, knew every ripple of the lake, every flutter of wind that brushed the water's edge. Her wings stretched long and graceful, catching the moonlight like gentle sails. But more than her beauty, it was her quiet watching that hinted at something deeper. Like she was waiting for something or someone. Each night, when the world hushed and the owls began their song, Alira would glide across the lake to the same stone archway on the northern bank. There, half buried in grass and thyme, stood a crumbled gate, once grand, now broken, its carving faded but not forgotten. It led to a winding path that vanished into the woods, a path no one had walked for 100 years. But Alira remembered, in her heart woven with gold magic and memories. She remembered the kingdom that once lay beyond that gate, a kingdom full of laughter, land and light, a kingdom now lost to fog and forgetfulness. One night, just as the sky deepened into indigo and the moon was rising round and full, something stirred in the woods. It began with a flicker, then a sound, a soft chime like a wind bell ringing far away. Eleanor lifted her head, her silver feathers rustled gently in the breeze. She blinked once, twice, then glided quietly towards the sound. From the trees, a girl stepped into the moonlight. She wore a cloak stitched with stars and held a lantern made of glowing petals. Her name was Lyra, though she did not know it yet. She had no memory of where she came from, only that something had drawn her here. A dream, perhaps, a whisper, a feeling she could not name. Alira watched her from the water, silent as ever. The girl walked slowly along the lake's edge, her eyes wide with wonder, her breath catching at the sight of the silvery swan. You are real? She whispered. Alira tilted her head, then glided closer. Ripples shimmered behind her like threads of light. The girl knelt beside the water. I think I have seen you before, she said softly. In a dream? The swan dipped her beak, sending a small wave of light towards the girl's hand. It sparkled like the stars above. Lyra looked past Alira to the archway, half hidden, half remembered. What's there? She asked. Beyond that gate? The swan turned her gaze then back to Lyra. It was then that the girl noticed something strange. Beside the archway, nestled among the ivy, was a small stone, smooth, round, and softly glowing. She felt drawn to it. Standing, she walked to the gate, her feet crunching gently over the fallen leaves. She knelt by the stone and touched it lightly. The moment her fingers met the surface, a soft hum filled with air, like the first few notes of a lullaby. Suddenly, the wind picked up, not harsh, just enough to stir the trees and ruffle the feathers of the swan. Alira let out the quiet cry, a sound filled with longing and memory. The stone under Lyra's hand pulsed once, then slowly split down the center to reveal a key, a silver key shaped like a feather. Lyra held it in her palm, warm and glowing. She looked back at Alira. Is that for me? She asked. The swan did not answer. She only watched, her eyes soft and endless. Lyra turned back to the gate, though the old lock was rusted and forgotten. It seemed to shimmer faintly as if waiting for the key all the time. And as Lyra stepped forward, key in hand, the moon above grew brighter, the mist began to shift, pulling back like curtains opening on the stage. The forgotten kingdom was beginning to remember. And so, under the hush of moonlight and magic, Lyra placed the key into the gate. The clock clicked, the gate creaked open. A breeze warm and scented like rain whispered through the archway. Behind her, Alira watched in silence. Her silver feathers gleamed in the moonlight, and a single tear sparkled at the edge of her eye. Lyra stepped through the gate, and the path ahead began to glow. As her foot touched the glowing path beyond the archway, a breeze full of memories passed over her shoulders. It smelled of fresh bread and blooming orchards, of candle wax and honeyed tea. Somewhere far off, a bell rang once, faint and musical, as if announcing her arrival. The path beneath her feet was lined with petals, pale pink and ivory white, fluttering down from the trees she could not yet see. It felt like walking through a forgotten dream, one made of soft echoes and silent stories. Behind her, the silver swan Alira stood at the water's edge, still watching, still waiting. Lyra walked carefully, lantern in hand, down the winding trail. The trees began to rise round her, tall, gentle things with bark like velvet and leaves that shimmered like silver coins in the moonlight. The forest was not dark, instead, it glowed with a soft, bluish light that seemed to come from the trees themselves. As she walked, Lyra heard them voices, not loud or frightening, soft and distant like the laughter of children from another time. The murmur of lullabies carried on the wind. She paused. There, just ahead, stood a small stone bench beneath a glowing tree, and sitting on the bench, quite still, was a boy. He looked no older than Lyra, perhaps 10 or 11, with curls like dark molasses and a tunic embroidered with teeny stars. He held something in his lap, a music box shaped like a rose. When he saw her, he smiled. You have come? He said softly, as though he had been waiting a very long time. I think so, Leah replied, though she was not sure what she was coming for. The boy gently opened the music box, and the sweetest sound spilled into the night, a lullaby made of stardust and violin strings. The leaves above them swayed in rhythm. My name is Rain, the boy said. I was the first to fall asleep 100 years ago, maybe more. Lyra sat beside him, her heart calm but curious. Asleep? Rain nodded, not sadly, just matter of fact. The kingdom, it faded. Bit by bit, people stopped remembering, they left or they forgot who they were. But some of us stayed in dreams, in whispers, in the petals that still fall. Lyra looked around, and now? Rain smiled again. Now the swan has sent you. Lyra blinked. Lyra? She remembers everything, Sandred. She guards what we have lost. She waited for someone with the heart to find the gate and the key. Lyra touched the feather shaped key, which now hung like a charm from her lantern. It glowed faintly. Rain stood and gestured down the path. Come, there is more to see. They walked side by side as the trees began to thin and the forest gave way to soft fields where tiny lights danced above the grass. Sleepy moons with glowing wings, or maybe something more magical. Ahead stood a tall structure half covered in flowering vines. It was a tower, leaning slightly to one side, with windows that blinked like sleepy eyes. A cat sat on the window's edge, yawning into the night. That is the watchtower, Rain said. It used to ring the evening bell before the forgetting. As they stepped closer, the door creaked open on its own, revealing a spiral staircase lit by floating orbs. Inside, the air was warm, filled with the scent of old books and cinnamon tea. Upstairs, whispered Rain, someone is waiting. They climbed the winding stairs. Lyra could feel her heartbeat in her fingertips, not in fear, but in wonder. At the top, the room opened wide to the sky. A telescope sat near the window and a table covered in parchment maps. Beside it, hung over a globe that glowed like a pearl, was an old woman with hair like frost and a cloak woven of twilight threads. She looked up slowly. Ah, she said, her voice soft and crackling like old paper. The girl with the lantern. Lyra nodded shyly. The woman who called herself Keeper Sela reached into her sleeve and pulled out a folded paper star. She opened it and set it on the table. It sparkled with the light, revealing a picture of silver swan, the lake, and a kingdom made of lantern, streets, and singing towers. It is returning, the keeper said. With every step you take, it wakes a little more. But why me? Lyra asked quietly. I don't remember this place. You don't have to, Sela smiled. You feel it, that's enough. She pressed her paper star into Lyra's hand. You must visit the heart of the kingdom. The palace sleeps beneath the ivy now, but it waits for your light. Lyra heard the star close, a warm hum blowing in her chest. She turned to look through the telescope and gasped. In the sky above, among the stars, a great silver shape glided through the clouds. Alira, she whispered. The swan was watching from above now, circling gently, her wings stretched across the night. And down below, just past the meadows and the moonlit field, the palace began to appear, just a shimmer at first, but growing clearer with every heartbeat. Lyra turned back to Rain, who gave a quiet note. It was time to walk to the palace, but not yet. The night was still. And so they stayed in the tower for a while longer, watching the stars move across the sky, listening to soft music from the rose shaped box, and sipping tea that tasted of memory. And as the first yawn curled behind Lyra's lip, she thought again of the lake, of the gate, and the kingdom walking beneath of her feet. They stepped out of the watchtower just as the sky blushed with the palace lavender, the kind of pre-dawn light that whispers of morning though the stars still linger. The meadow was blanketed in silver mist and the grass swayed softly as if it is too had begun to remember. The path curved between flowering hedges where butterflies dozed on petals and glowing toadstools blinked sleepily along the edges. There was no rush. The world around them moved in time with dreams, unhurried and full of wonder. Do you think it will recognize me? Dira asked as they walked. I think, said Rain gently, it already has. The palace appeared slowly, rising from the mist like a memory too long buried. Its tower wrapped in ivy, its gate dusted in moonlight, windows round and taut, reflected stars like mirrors, and faint music like a lullaby hummed by the wind drifted from within. The moon doors were carved with swans and stardust, worn smooth by times. As Lyra stepped close, the feather key began to grow softly. She reached forward, breath held, and turned it. With the softest click, the doors creaked open. Inside, the palace breathed. It was like stepping into the belly of a sleeping dream, everything quiet, still, and hushed in velvet light. Tapestries hung from tall stone walls, their threads faded but shimmering with stories. Chandeliers sparked gently, not with fire, but with tiny floating orbs like dandelion seeds. And everywhere there was ivy, not wild but soft and silver, climbing with care over stairways and arcs, cradling the palace as it slept. As they walked deeper inside, Lyra's step echoed softly against the marble floor. She felt the warmth of something long lost waking up, not suddenly, but as if it had been listening for her all this time. They passed a fountain in the shape of a curled fox. Though dry, it whispered gently as they passed, and the eyes of the fox glimmered faintly. The painting on the wall showed scenes of the kingdom full of music, of stargazers and tea dancers, of swine flying over lakes that shimmered gold. And then, at the very center of the palace, stood a great circular hall with a domed ceiling of glass. Ivy curled along the edges, and light poured through its soft, golden streams. At the center of the room stood a pedestal. Upon it, a book, old leather bound, its cover inlaid with silver feathers, the Book of Whispers. Hiren stepped forward, his hand hovering over the cover. This book remembers everything he said, every dream, every wish ever made in this kingdom, but it has not been opened in 100 years. Lyra stepped beside him. May I? She asked softly. Rain nodded. Her finger touched the cover and the book pulsed gently like a heartbeat. When she opened it, the pages fluttered by themselves, glimpses of starlit dancing, secret gardens, poems written on seashells, stories told under glowing trees, and then the pages stirred. One page remained blank, glowing faintly. A message appeared in soft silvery ink. To awaken the kingdom, the heart must remember its name. Lyra stared at the words. What does it mean? She whispered. Jane looked up toward the glass dome where the stars twinkled above like notes on a quiet melody. I think, he said slowly, you will need to visit the Garden of Echoes. Lyra blinked. Where is that? Hiren smiled. Where the wind sings to the statues and the flower remember your footstep. It is hidden in the northern wing and only opens when someone truly listens. And just then a quiet sound filled the air, a single clear chime. The same bell she had heard on the night she first saw Elira. They both turned toward the sound. A hallway had appeared behind the pedestal, narrow and curved, lined with lanterns that lit themselves as she stepped forward. As Lyra passed through the hallway, the palace seemed to hum softly around her. The ivy rustled gently, and the very walls felt as though they were watching and hoping. The hallway opened to a courtyard she had not seen before, and there it was, the Garden of Echoes. The moonlight glowed in pools along the cobbled paths. Statues stood still in quiet corners, some of children playing, others of dancers mid steps. The flowers here were unlike any others. Bluebells the size of teacups, roses that glowed faintly like candlelight, and soft vines that sang lullabies. Leela stepped slowly into the garden. The moment her foot touched the grass, the flowers leaned toward her. A breeze rustled through the leaves, and somewhere, far but close, she heard the sound of the silver swan's wing. She closed her eyes and listened, and the garden listened back. Rain stood at the garden's edge, watching silently, letting Lyra move as though the garden itself were guiding her. She stepped slowly past a statue of a girl reading by candlelight, her stone feathers shiny and kind, the past a fountain shaped like a pair of cupped hands, still and dry but lined with moosey patterns that looked suspiciously like music notes. The flowers leaned towards her gently, brushing her fingertips. When she touched the edge of one pale blue blossom, it sang a single clear tone that rang like a distant memory. Another step, another note, and then another. Each flower she passed added to the song like keys on a music box, and then the path curved and she saw the tree. It was enormous, ancient, its bark shimmered with silver veins, and from its branches hung soft, glowy pods like lanterns. The roots curled through the garden stones like a cradle, and nestled within them sat a small stone bench waiting. Lyra approached it, her breath soft, her heart steady. As she said, the tree released a faint sound, a hum, low and melodic. Rain joined her, sitting quietly beside her. This is the tree of remembering, he whispered. It holds the heart of the kingdom. If you listen closely, it might share its name. Lyra closed her eyes. She placed a hand on a bench, feeling the coolness of the stone and the soft vibration beneath it like a faraway purr. In that stillness, the garden grew quieter still, and then, like a dream drifting to the surface, she heard it a soft voice, not loud, not clear, but unmistakably there. A name whispered on the wind, a name that made the corners of her eyes sting and her chest warm with recognition. Alwyn, she murmured. The garden sighed, flowers leaned. The statue seemed to shift slightly as though breathing for the first time in ages. Alwyn, Rain repeated, his voice like a thread in the wind. The true name of the kingdom, the name that was hidden, forgotten, waiting for someone to remember. Suddenly, the tree of remembering pulsed with light. One of its glowing pods detached from a branch and floated gently down, hovering in front of Lyra like a delicate moon fruit. She reached out with both hands and catch it. The moment she did, images bloomed in her mind of the kingdom as it once was, of music drifting through lanterns lit streets, of children chasing stardust across bridges woven with silver, of a queen who once walked among the gardens, her laughter like wind chimes, of a silver swan always gliding across the mirrored lake, and then of a young girl, cradled in arms, giving a lullaby by and a kiss on her forehead. The queen's voice gently and true, sleep well, my little Lyra. One day this kingdom will call to you and you will help it remember. Tears shimmered at the edges of her lashes. She was my mother, Lyra whispered. Ray nodded, his eyes glowing softly. And this is your kingdom, Lyra. You have brought it back. She looked at the pot in her hands, glowing now with a gentle delight, as if full of all the dream once lost. It was warm, light, almost weightless. What do I do with it? She asked softly. Rain smiled. You bring it to the lake. There was a silver swan waits. The garden rustled in agreement, and behind them the path lit up. Lanterns glowing along the stone, showing the way through the garden gate and towards the edge of the rear. Lyra stood, her heart full of both softness and strength. I am ready, she whispered. The garden hummed, the statues stood taller, and somewhere beyond the trees, beyond the dream, a pair of silver wings shimmered beneath the stars. She did not feel tired. Though her journey had been long, she felt still. Like the hush of snow before dawn, the lake greeted her with glass like calm, and there gliding toward the shore with grace as soft as a starlight was the silver swan. Its feathers shimmered in the moonlight, each one edged with patterns like rippling water and ancient runes. Its eyes held galaxies, yet its gaze was kind, familiar, almost motherly. Lyra stepped forward, barefoot on the cool sand. The glowing pot in her palms cast ripples of light across the water. The swan stopped a few feet away and bowed its head low. Rain remained behind, quiet. The pot floated gently from Lyra's hand and hovered above the water. There was no wind, no sound, only the heartbeat of the lake and the quiet hum of magic returning home. The swan raised its neck slowly, and a single feather drifted from its back, glowing with the same soft light as the pot. It touched the pot, and at once the lake lit up beneath the surface. Golden veins of light pulsed across the water like roots reawakening. The lanterns around the lake began to flicker with soft flame. The air shimmered, the trees leaned in, listening. And then a gentle voice, neither male nor female, old nor young, whispered through the breeze, Alvin remembers. Lyra watched her breath catch in her throat. As the pot dissolved into silver mist, it rose into the air, then gently showered over the lake like stardust. Where the light touched, reeds turned into ribbons and lily pads became soft glowing discs like a stepping stone for dreams. The silver swan floated forward and dipped its beak into the water, sending one final ripple outward. Then it turned toward Lyra and it spoke, not aloud but in her heart. You have restored it, what was lost, not with power, but with presence. You remembered, and now the kingdom remembers you. The swan spread its wings wide and beautiful, and as it did, the stars above the lake shimmered brighter, not fiercely, just enough to feel like the night was smiling. And then from the shadows of the trees, figures began to appear. Soft, translucent at first, echoes of the past made visible by remembrance. Villagers, gardeners, children, the baker with flowers still on her cheek, the queen with her crown made of woven ivy and starlight. They came not in silence but in song, a hum soft and sure, a kingdom waking gently. Lyra turned, eyes brimming. The queen approached slowly, her smile seen. My little dream bird, she whispered, voice like velvet. You heard this song when the world had forgotten it, and you came back. Lyra stepped into her embrace, and it felt like warm returning to fingertips after a long winter. When the queen stepped back, she lifted her head, and from the swan's feathers came something small and glowing, a crown, not grand or heavy, but delicate, woven of silver threads, tiny bells, and leaves that shimmered like moonlight. She placed it upon Lyra's head, and all around the kingdom exhaled. The stars seemed to sigh, the lake grew still again. The echo faded, but the memory stayed. Lyra looked to Rain, who bowed with a peaceful smile. It's time, he said, to rest, to dream. Alvin is safe now. The silver swan bowed once more and with a final ripple glided back into the midst of the lake, fading gently into the shimmer of stars. Lyra stood for a moment longer, feeling the quiet crown upon her head, the hum in her chest, at the deep comforting truth that she belonged, that the kingdom was not forgotten, that dreams even buried in time always find their way home. As Lyra rests beneath the silver tree, the kingdom of Alvin sleep once more, safe, remembered, and wrapped in moonlight.